Okay, we are live. Welcome back to the Here's the Deal channel. This is the second or third live stream. I don't want to wear you guys out, but I do want to say, I want to take a second and just tell you how fortunate I am to have Trish in my life. Not only is she beautiful and a beautiful person, because you can be beautiful and not be a beautiful person. She just happens to be both, but she can cook like you would not believe. It's like, how did you get my taste buds to do the waltz and the disco and the La Bamba at the same time? It's crazy how good of a cook. So I'm wolfing down, some post-Christmas / Thanksgiving dinner right before we got started. And I'm like, man, this stuff is so good. I just want to sit here and just chew for 5 minutes and just savor the flavor. But such is not a case when you have a live stream scheduled. I wanted to start off this video right here with a video I just happened upon by frickin' media, which was frickin' hilarious. Listen to this. Show me yours and I'll show you mine.
There ain't no problem. I'm on a public roadway. They can't say shit about me being
I wanted
neither can you. So what's the issue? Well, the issue is they came out and talked to me. I was just walking up and down the road taking pictures, and they want to come out and tell me to move along. I don't have to move along. I'm free.
You can't just stand in the street.
I'm not standing in the street. I'm on the side of the street. I'm not standing in the roadway. No, I'm not standing in the roadway. No, I'm not standing in the roadway, sir. No, I'm not. I know the law. Maybe you should know the law. What?
You have identification on you?
You got identification on you?
Yeah, it's right here.
No, that ain't your identification. I want to see your driver's license with your address on it. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. How about that?
Yeah, that's
no?
fine.
Huh? Is that fine? Pull yours out. Let me see it. And I'll show you mine. No, you first.
Pull yours out.
You first.
It's not really funny, dude.
It's hilarious.
No.
It is hilarious. You may not find it funny, but I find it comical.
What's the point of being here?
What?
What's your point of being here?
My point is because I'm a free American. And?
So are you just trying to incite something?
I'm not inciting shit. I'm walking up down the road taking pictures. They want to come out and bark orders at me.
I love what he said. I don't have to move along. I'm free. I'm a free man. What did I slip across the border into China or North Korea or Australia or New Zealand? I'm free. And you're an American and you're free too. Don't come up to me and jeopardize your freedom because you want to obey or fulfill or cross the T's or dot your I's to your policy and your regulations and your infringements, frankly. And that's why I want to do this video, because your freedom is important, because your freedom is your life. Period. Full stop. Whatever they say. So welcome to the show tonight. We're going to talk about your freedom. We're going to talk about my freedom. We're going to talk about the people who call First Amendment auditors frauditors freedom. And we're going to talk about their kids and their grandkids' freedom and our kids and grandkids' freedom. And I'm going to highlight this guy right here. And again, there's no ill will here. There's no ill intent. I want to free minds. I want to set brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. And I assume that's what Sean Paul Reyes from Long Island Audit wants to do. When he goes out there with his camera, he's not just pushing buttons and pulling levers. He's flexing his rights. Why? Because he's a free man and freedom matters. And it matters when somebody crosses that line and tries to take away that freedom from him, no matter how insignificant you might think. Now, you might think it's insignificant that frickin' media was asked to show an ID, was asked to identify himself. But that's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, guys. This cop should go, you know what? It's none of my business who you are because you're not engaged in a criminal activity. It's not my business who you are because you're not harming anybody. It's not my business. Even if there's hearsay that you did X, I'm here to investigate and find out if you did it. I'm not here to believe what hearsay has told me or what some little birdie has put in my ear. I am here to serve and protect. And one of the things that I'm here to protect, I'm here to serve you and protect your freedoms. Now, if you violated somebody else's rights, then we got an issue. That's what this cop should be saying. And that's what I want all cops all over the place to do. See, it's not so much that they derive a paycheck. It's that they derive a paycheck from an occupation that is decidedly antithetical to the Constitution that they swore to protect, defend, and uphold. So the name of this, the name of this channel is Frauditors Exposed. And again, it looks like he's got like a, I don't know, it just looks like this is literally his header. It's got Long Island Audit's face, Sean Paul Reyes' face on here. I guess he's here to expose frauditors, but I want to look into what the heck frauditors are. I mean, if you're talking about somebody who's out there exercising their rights and they just happen to be thrown in jail as they're exercising their rights. I saw even under the last video I did, the last live stream, but Craig's in jail. It's like, but that's not the point. If Craig is in jail because somebody did something evil to him as he was standing for your rights and mine, you should have a problem with it. The issue is not, did he go to jail? Did he get arrested? Did he get hassled and harassed and kicked off the property by cops? The question is, did he do something wrong? Because we know the wrong is committed routinely by badge law enforcers and people who say that they're security guards. So we're going to discuss this idea of limited public forum. Let me just ask you real quick. What is the supreme law of the land? We're in America. I'm recording from America. Now, you could be from the UK. You could be from Australia, New Zealand. I've got people in other countries watching this broadcast. But what is the supreme law of the land in the United States of America? By the way, the United States is not a country. It's a corporation, according to Title 28, Section 300215A. If you want to take a look at it, I encourage you not to believe me. And let me give you a little disclaimer before we really get rolling here. I'm not a liar/lawyer. And those, that's basically synonymous in terms. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't graduate law school. Anything that I tell you is just merely my opinion based on objective facts, based on experience. Don't take what I said at face value. Do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and act accordingly to your own conclusions, not based on what I tell you. I could be wrong. I would need to be corrected. I could be wrong. I'm a human being. But let's go over this idea of limited public forum. So what's the supreme law of the land? Oh, that's right. It's the Constitution of the United States. What's included in the Constitution of the United States? Something called the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. What is amendment number 1? You have a couple of rights that Congress cannot infringe on and cannot abridge and cannot make a law against. Cannot. The Bill of Rights are restrictions on the government, not on the people. The government is the idea that other people have a right to rule you and steal your stuff. This is a restriction. This First Amendment, we're going to read it in its entirety. As a refresher, I already know that. RAPS, RAPPS, religion, assembly, petition, press, speech. I already know it. Yeah, well, let's just look at it again, because we're going to also be talking about limited public forum. What's the supreme law of the land? Limited public forum or the First Amendment? Thank you for the super chats. I will make sure that I read out all super chats in the middle and at the end, but I don't want to break my train of thought here. Reading the First Amendment. Congress, which is the opposite of progress, shall make no law, regulation, ruling, respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise of that religion, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. Congress shall make no law abridging your freedom of the press. Well, Brian, you might say, I don't have freedom of the press. I didn't go to, journalist school. I didn't graduate from a university with a 4-year degree with a PhD in journalism, and I'm not a part of mainstream media, so I'm not the press. If you got one of these, you're the press. And we can call it First Amendment auditors or whatever. You are the press. You are a historian. You are recording the facts as they play out in front of your camera, and cameras don't lie. They just record. Record the police, record your public officials, record anything that you can see in a publicly accessible area. You know why? Because it's your right. And if anybody infringes on those rights, no matter the excuse they give, no matter the justifications they pile on top of each other, no matter how good it sounds, no matter how much case law it has behind it, no matter how resolute the Supreme Court justices were in their 9-0 decision against it, you have the right to freedom of the press. You are the press when you're recording history, especially with something that doesn't lie, and that is an audio recording or a video recording device. So Congress shall make no law prohibiting or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. No law. Well, what about limited public forum laws? Limited public forum laws must fall in the category of the First Amendment. No, actually they don't. Unless you count yourself among the pool of the cognitively dissonant. You have freedom of the press, period. No ands, no ifs, no buts, no justifications, no Supreme Court tyrants, no edict from the President of the United States. Doesn't matter what the governors say. Doesn't matter what your congressman says. It doesn't matter if all 535 political parasites align themselves against you and get out fancy pieces of paper and sign their John Hancocks and say, no, it's limited public forum or nothing. Doesn't matter, because the supreme law of the land is now and has been for 250 something years, close to, the supreme law of the land. And if it's the supreme law of the land, if it's the pinnacle, it's the absolute highest you can go, then there's nothing above it, and that would include limited public forums. Now, here's what this guy's name is: Mark Stout from Frauders Exposed. So he says limited public forum. This is in his description under his YouTube channel. Individuals do not have a constitutional right to film in government buildings. What are you? You are press. You don't have the constitutional right to freedom of press, says Mark Stout, in government buildings. Well, what is government? According to Lincoln, it's of the people, by the people, for the people. And it shall not be vanquished from the earth. Really? Well, I don't buy that. You can't have government. A synonym of government is slavery. A synonym of government is right to rule people who don't want to be ruled. Government can't be of the people, because what if some of the people don't want government? Well, now we got a little problem, because now you're speaking for all the people and broad brushing them when probably a large percentage of them disagree with a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And what is government anyway? Is it some enigmatic entity? Can you go to Washington, D.C. and say, aha, look at the beautiful, pristine, marbled hallways of Congress. This is government. Oh, look at the Lincoln Memorial. This is government. Oh, look at where they're seated in the houses of Congress. Look, they even have seats. Those seats, it's the seat of government. What is government? It's enigmatic. It's a term to describe a certain group of people who believes they have a higher claim over your life and property than you are, to the point where they make these rules, these opinions of politicians backed by the threat of force. And if you don't do these rules, if you don't follow the ordinances, then they believe, and they're just demented minds, that you can be punished and have your rights 100% taken away from you. That's why what Sean Paul Reyes and Long Island Audit and San Joaquin Valley Transparency and who else is in here? Lick the Whole Boot. Let's just name some of them off. Direct D, Brooklyn Audit, Mandatory's in here, Rathguard Redbeard. That's what these channels are all about, is identifying and retaining and holding fast to individual unalienable rights that weren't given to you by a man and can't legitimately be taken by a man, no matter what court cases say, no matter what the Supreme Court case says, no matter what executive orders are. Let me remind you of 1933 of Executive Order 6102, where it actually made every American who held physical gold a criminal, punishable up to 5 to 10 years in prison and $10,000, a $10,000 fine if they catch you owning physical gold. Is it a crime to own physical gold? FDR said it was, because he made an edict. It's nonsense. So limited public forum. Individuals do not have a constitutional right to film in government buildings, says Mark Stout and case law. Or on government building property, which are limited public forums. Now, I'm not arguing that there's such a thing in case law called limited public forums, but is that higher than the supreme law of the land? I don't think so. Hey, Skippy, what's the supreme law of the land again? Erwin, I believe that it is the Constitution of the United States. Very good, Skippy, well said. And nothing shall come above it, including limited public forums. Case law clearly establishing that individuals do not have the right to film, get this, in city halls or places like city halls. This is Andrew Sheets versus City of Punta Gorda. If you read it, it's just embarrassing that human beings are literally going to create case law that are going to take away the supreme law of the land from their own lives. See, these Supreme Court tyrants and these lower court district tyrants are literally making laws against themselves and their posterity. That's how insane this is. It's truly, look, every sentence I read, it's like you just shake your head going, no, this can't be. What is this, a Twilight Zone skit? So he says clearly established law says that individuals don't have the right to film. And then it says case law, not the supreme law of the land, but case law clearly establishes that individuals don't have the right to film in police stations and places like police stations. So the police, through the government, local, federal, state, it doesn't matter, they can extract and extort the American taxpayer. Did I say tax cattle? I didn't mean that. Yes, I did. So they can extort, they can shake you down and take a portion of your income, your time and laboring energies, because they feel like they can, because they feel like they can enslave you. And that's what a master does to a slave. They claim the property of another against that person's consent. And then they put it in the coffers of the local police department. And then they use that to buy nice, souped up 450 horsepower, 550 horsepower cruisers and radar guns and tickets and ticketing machines and fancy laptops and helicopters and canine units and special, drug enforcement task agents to align themselves against you and come up with justifications on why they can take away more of your rights. And how they can form a SWAT team and have a Bearcat or an MRAP parked outside your house and the SWAT team behind shields, and you're in there thinking that you're secure in your person's house with papers and effects. You're not. 3 o'clock in the morning. Please open up. We have a search warrant. Boom. Flashbang. Dog mysteriously dies under strange circumstances. We thought he had a gun. We feared for our lives. Run, Skippy, run. Man, if you're that fearful that you're going to pull a gun on somebody who's unarmed that's trying to obey your commands, Daniel Shaver, Philando Castile, Eric Gardner, Schaefer Cox, Jeffrey Winehouse. I mean, the list is ridiculous and embarrassing. Botham John. If you're that scared, being a cop is probably not the occupation for you. Especially if you're going to make your profession becoming a stench in the nostrils of the American people to the point where you feel like it's okay to shake them down at every turn. Road piracy, policing for profit. So they say case law clearly establishing that individuals don't have a right to film the police. Case law, huh? Case law. What did we just read right here? Let's see. Case law. This right here says you can't abridge the freedom of speech or the press, but the case law says you can. Freedom of speech says you can't. Case law, freedom of speech, case law. Okay, so what is it? Is it case law or freedom of speech? Because I don't see any concession for limited public forums in the First Amendment. Do you guys see it? Maybe I'm blind. Maybe I need another prescription for my dopey glasses. I am here. And SJVT is here, and cameras everywhere is here, and hopefully other auditors are here. Long Island Audit, all of them out there are here to defend your rights as you, people who are exposing frauditors, are tearing down your own rights. Amazing. And that's why one of the reasons I played this video from Frickin' Media is because it's so ironic to me that frickin' media is standing for the rights of a guy who's trying to take his rights away. Who's the champion here? Who's the moralist here? Holy cow, Long Island Audit. Man, I appreciate that. That was very generous. I will read. Well, is this, thanks for doing a live stream on this topic. Mark Stout is delusional. Mark Stout, by the way, is this guy from Frauditors Exposed. I'll read the other super chat here too. Let's see. Thanks for doing this live stream on this topic. Mark Stout is delusional in his legal analysis. Sheets versus Punta Gorda isn't case law. Mark Stout portrays it as case law, but it's an injunction. Mark Stout is a failed activist and tyrant, period. I'm seeing that. And even, let me just go further. Even if this Sheets versus City of Punta Gorda, and even if this Stout versus Mitchell district court was actual case law, case law is not the supreme law of the land. How many times has the Supreme Court, rogue tyrants of the Supreme Court, gotten it wrong? See, and it all boils down, if you don't take anything away from this video, take this away. It's about doing what is right. And is it right to infringe on somebody else's right as they exercise yours and my rights of the First Amendment, freedom of speech? The next super chat is from Scalezzo Photo. He says, limited public forum doesn't limit the entire First Amendment. Case law might limit loud protests in City Hall, but that doesn't mean the rest of the 1A is limited. Cameras asking questions is quiet. Yeah, but wait a second, guys. I'm going to show you. We're going to delve into this because apparently, if I'm understanding this right, Mark Stout has written a paper against Long Island Audit called, this is a memorandum from Mark Joseph Stout. You can see it right here. We're going to be going through this in detail, and it is fascinating. It is fascinating the lengths to which an individual will go to steal not only your rights, in a dubious way, I might add, but to steal his own rights. Do you realize that by writing a memorandum like this, Mark, you're literally telling the government it's okay for you to steal my rights in certain situations? If it's okay to take your rights in emergency situations or some well-justified situation, then the government will always craft more emergency situations to take away more of your rights. Like Rahm Emanuel said and Hillary Clinton said, never let a good crisis go to waste, even a fabricated crisis. We'll create a fabricated crisis so we can take more of your rights away, because that's always the goal of the statist. That's always the goal of the tyrant, to lessen your rights. And I would hope it's the goal of every First Amendment auditor to retain and bolster and show people that they have rights. That's why when I walk around, generally, not always, because sometimes it's not prudent, and I will acknowledge that it's tactically superior to carry concealed, so that if there is a bad guy in the room, he doesn't single you out and pull the trigger on you and get the drop on you before, he takes care of everybody else. But I open carry for the primary reason of setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men, so that they can see that attached to this firearm is a smiling face, is a cordial individual, is a person who just wants peace. But you can carry. The non-aggression principle in anarchy does not mean that you don't show aggression in certain warranted situations that call for it. You want to see some serious aggression? Then mess with a peaceful person's rights and his family's lives. And then you'll see some serious aggression. So I want to go over this real quick. This is apparently written by Mark Stout. Embarrassing as it is, I'm going to be going over it. And it's prudent because, again, what's the supreme law of the land? Number one, actually, that's number two. Number one, what is right? It's never wrong to do right. And it is never right to do wrong. And this is what he's vying for. He's vying for and pushing for and justifying the doing of wrong by government functionaries. So this is stout pro se litigation. In other words, they do litigation on their own behalf without, like another attorney. Mark Joseph Stout. 2, the United States Postal Service, the Department of Justice, state and local police and sheriff's department, federal and state attorney general, and town and city hall, library, and other government administrative employees, and to all other interested parties. And then he says right here, this is the coup de grace right here. But wait, there's more. You would think that with the turning of each page, it couldn't get worse. It gets worse. The justifications get thicker. The tyranny becomes deeper. The oppression gets more oppressive. Arrest and prosecute. This is regarding arrest and prosecution of First Amendment auditors and individuals who film on federal, state, local government property in violation of government policies. So here's what Mark is saying. And this just irks me to no end. There is somebody out there, Mark Stout, and some of these other frauditor exposure channels. There are people out there who want you to be kidnapped, arrested, and caged, and all your freedoms taken away and tied up in expensive litigation just for exercising the thing that we read at the top of the show, your First Amendment, the right to freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Bonkers. This is crazy. Not people who commit crimes, but individuals who film. Who did they harm, Mark? Who did they threaten to harm, Mark? Whose property did they damage, Mark? What wrong was committed? And how can it be right to do wrong to somebody who didn't do wrong? Memorandum in support of limited public forums and in support of the arrest and prosecution of 1A frauditors. So what Mark, and I want you to see his face when I say this. This Mark guy wants you to be violated, wants your rights taken, wants you to be stripped from your family. If you're the breadwinner, he wants your family economically terrorized because you failed to comply with a policy from government that says, hey, this is a limited public forum. You have no First Amendment right here. And that's why I titled this, You Don't Have Rights, Limited Public Forum. Limited public forum means anti-First Amendment. Anytime you see, I don't care what the case law is. I don't care what the Supreme Court says. I don't even care if they make an amendment to the amendment. It is not right, period. And I'm only interested in doing what's right. And I would never ask any government functionary to intrude on Mark Stout's life and rights and strip him from his family as a breadwinner and economically terrorize those he loves. Would not do it. This shows you what kind of people we're dealing with. And it truly angers me. And it truly angers me that he's actually going after Long Island Audit when you can look at video after video after video of Sean Paul Reyes and San Joaquin Valley Transparency and all these other auditors out there who are literally getting their rights infringed on. And when I watch these videos, I'm like, if he would do that, if that cop would do that to ex-bootlicker in the room or Monica Smith or SJD News, they would do it to me. And if they would do it to me, they would do it to my sons and daughters. And if they do it to my sons and daughters, they would do it to my grandsons and granddaughters. They would do it to my mom. And we don't need people like that on the earth. Now, I'm not calling for let me make it clear. I am not calling for any kind of retaliation or violence when I say that. I don't want any harm to come to anybody. But I will not sit here and tolerate an intrusion on my rights or your rights, which translates into an intrusion on your life to the point where you won't be alive anymore. And there are people in jail right now that have been there for no freaking reason. They're there not because they committed a crime. They're there because they possessed a plant or a certain amount of a plant or were enjoying the benefits of a plant. Let that sink in. Memorandum in support of limited public forums and in support of the arrest and prosecution of 1A frauditors. There are 4 different forms of public: traditional public, designated public, limited public, and non-public. We're only going to focus on traditionally public and limited public, he says. Individuals have a First Amendment right to film traditionally public places. Individuals do not have a First Amendment right to film from or in limited public places. Guess who gets to define what limited public spaces are? That's right, your enemies in the government. So we're going to allow our enemies in the government, who are supposed to be serving and protecting, to create a framework from which you can operate and exercise your rights, which literally means you have no rights at all. If somebody can limit or valve down your rights, you don't have them. If they can say, well, we determine the method, manner, and means, and we determine that this place is a limited public place or a limited public forum, you don't have rights here. Sorry, I'm not in China. No, I'm not sorry. I'm very glad I'm in America. As tyrannical as it is, it ain't North Korea. But we ain't in North Korea. And I'm not abiding by that. And injustice done to one man anywhere is injustice done to all men everywhere. And when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty, our duty. It's our duty to resist it, in my opinion. Traditionally, public places occupy a special position in terms of First Amendment protection. Let's see. Let me look back at this. I don't see limited public forum anywhere in the First Amendment. They must have made that up. They must have made that term up. Oh, yeah, this is public, but it's limited. Oh, yeah, you have rights, but they're limited. Nonsense. It's utter nonsense. It's utter, let's just make stuff up on the fly. Let's pretend that the supreme law of the land is the Constitution of the United States, but in actuality, let's say it's case law. When Sean Paul Reyes just pointed out in the chat room, and I haven't looked into this. What's up, Chuck Bronson? Mandatory myocarditis, blue unicorn. I haven't looked into this, but apparently this isn't even case law. But even if I'm just going to take it at face value, what he says. I'm just going to say it is case law. So what? Case law does not infringe on my rights or your rights. Rights trump case law. Rights trump the Supreme Court. Rights trump the rogue tyrants of the Supreme Court. Rights trump the President of the United States. Rights trump executive orders. If they don't, then they're not rights. Stop calling them rights if they're not powerful enough to overcome those obstacles. Special position in terms of First Amendment protection. Traditionally, public places are places where people have always historically and customarily exercised and have always been expected and encouraged to exercise their constitutional rights. Those places are streets, sidewalks, plazas, and parks, but there's even limitations on sidewalks, as we'll see later on in this crazy Twilight Zone style document. Then they say traditional places are places where places which by long tradition or by government fiat have been devoted. In other words, you got permission. It's either by tradition or by government fiat or edict, or they declared it to be so, or they put the amen on it. Oh, I'm only free on this public sidewalk because the government says I am. That's why I cannot stand. Hey, I'm allowed to be out here. I'm allowed to film in a library. I'm allowed to film in a post office. Let's stop saying that. I like what freaking media said at the video that I just played at the outset of this video, this live stream. I'm a free man. I'm free to film. I'm free to record. I'm free to be a journalist. I'm free to be the press. I'm not allowed. Allowed implies that somebody above you gave you permission as though you were a child, and you're not a child. And nobody's above you. And you're not above anybody, Mark. It just pisses you off, man. The Supreme Court provided an example of such a place. The court described that streets and parks have immemorially been held in trust for the use of public and in time out of mind have been used for purposes of assembly, communication, thought between citizens. You're not a citizen. You're a human being. You're a man. You're a natural man, a man of the soil, just like everybody is. And discussing public questions. And check this out. A traditionally public place is an open space, meeting hall, park, street corner, or other public thoroughfare. It says traditionally public places are part of the city's automotive, pedestrian, or bicyclist transportation grid. A traditionally public place is an easement for public passage intended to encourage pedestrian vehicular traffic. No fake. It's a public place. And you cannot trespass eyes in a public place. Whatever your eyes can see cannot be trespassed, not legitimately so, by a badged law enforcer. Now, they will do it, but it's not legitimate. It's actual criminal activity if you want to just take the First Amendment at face value. Oh, you're free to do it, but this law enforcer says you can't? Well, guess who just committed a crime? Why not err on the side of freedom? The government does not create a traditionally public place by inaction or by permitting limited discourse, but only by intentionally opening a non-tradition forum for public discourse. Really? Oh, the government has that much power? As far as I know from the Bill of Rights, the government doesn't have any power and is heavily restricted. That's what the purpose of the Bill of Rights is. It's not to restrict the people. It's to restrict the government. It's not to handcuff the people. It's to bind the government down with the chains of the Constitution, to use Ayn Rand and Jefferson's terminology. A traditionally public place will not be created in the face of clear evidence of a contrary intent. Okay, so they say streets, sidewalks, and then they say sidewalks, of course, are among those areas of public property that traditionally have been held open to the public and are clearly within these areas of public property that may be considered generally without further inquiry to be traditionally public places. Oh, you have a First Amendment right there, the courts say, or he says the courts say. However, you know what? The First Amendment doesn't come with ands, buts, and howevers. It just doesn't. It just says you got them. It's like the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. Background checks, that's an infringement. Gun safety regulations, that's an infringement. Gun control, magazine limitation, magazine capacity limitation, that's an infringement. Any infringement, any barrier, I don't care if it's a paper-thin barrier, is an infringement. And it says shall not be infringed. So if anybody does infringe, we just got the spotlight turned on to the real criminal in this situation. We got an investigation. Oh, yeah, what's up? Well, this guy has rights because the Constitution says it, but this guy over here says he can take away rights, and he's got a long laundry list of justifications, and he pulled them out, and I examined them. Oh, yeah, what'd you conclude? I examined that rights are unalienable. They can't be taken, and they can't be given. And this guy's trying to do a little bit of taking with some justification, and that ain't going to work. That don't wash. That dog don't hunt. That guy, he's asleep and he ain't coming off the porch. But people think, oh, we have case law. We have the Supreme Court. Oh my God, we have all these crazy things going around. It's like they're trying to distract you with all this stuff when the simple little logical nugget of truth is, no, you got rights. And ain't nobody taking away those rights as long as you haven't harmed, threatened to harm, or stolen somebody's stuff or damaged their property and didn't pay for it. However, they say, this guy says, and Conkinda, the Supreme Court explained that not every sidewalk is a traditionally public place. So after they see how they're already switching the rules on you, sidewalks are traditionally public places and you have the First Amendment right because we allow you to. No, you can't allow me to. It's unalienable. You didn't give it. You can't take it away. However, they say, not every sidewalk is a traditionally public place simply by virtue of the fact that it fixed the physical description of a sidewalk. Rather, the location and purpose of a publicly owned sidewalk is critical in determining whether such a sidewalk constitutes a traditionally public place. So you see what they're already doing? If there's two kinds, they're just focusing, of the four, they're focusing on traditionally public place and a limited public forum. Now, let's talk about the traditionally public place. You got a First Amendment right. However, there are traditionally public places where you don't have the right. And we're not even talking about limited public places right now. We're talking about in the scope of traditional public places. So now they're already trying to reach in past the veil of the traditionally public place and put some limitations on it. What psychopathy is this? I don't understand it. Put me on the psychiatrist's couch because I think I'm going crazy. Publicly owned or operated property does not become a traditionally public place simply because members of the public are permitted to come and go at will, says Greer versus Spock. Says, although whether the property has been generally open to the public is a factor to consider in determining whether the government has opened its property to the use of the people. Well, the government can open or close property for use of the people. I didn't know they had that kind of power. It is not determinative of the question. There's little doubt that in some circumstances, the government may ban the entry onto the public property that is not a traditionally public place of all persons except those who have legitimate business purposes. So they're going to determine, an illegitimate entity is going to determine whether you legitimately have access to what otherwise would be known as a traditionally public place. Do you see how convoluted this is? Do you see how it's trying to just take your freedoms and arrest you? Do you see how it's not only not trying to err on the side of freedom, it's trying to err on the side of tyranny? So bogus. It's so obviously bogus. I'm going to change my highlight pen right here. The government, no less than check this out. They conflate government with the private sector. The government is government, private is private. Public is public, and private is private, and never the twain shall meet. It says the government, no less than a private owner of property, has the power to preserve the property under its control for the use to which it is lawfully dedicated. What about constitutionally dedicated? What about that? I'm going to do the next one in pink here because you really got to be weak-minded. You really got to be a coward to buy into this stuff. You got to demean yourself. You got to be so demoralized and dehumanized that you're actually going to pick this up and go, I think I will be being a bootlicker ain't such a bad idea. My tongue's been kind of lonely and it needs to lick some more mud off of that government boot. Public owned or operated property is not transformed into traditionally public property merely because the public is permitted, now bad word, to freely enter and leave at practically all times, and the public is admitted during specific hours. On streets and sidewalk, the right of the state to limit activity are sharply circumscribed. Well, I would say that it wasn't even circumscribed in the First Amendment. I would say that it's eliminated altogether. The government can't tell you that you don't have the right to film in public, according to the First Amendment. I mean, I didn't write the First Amendment, guys. Don't be mad at me if you want tyranny. But Brian, I want tyranny. Oh, foiled again. I just want tyranny. I want my sons and daughters to fear on the land of the free, home of the brave. Matter of fact, I don't want this to be the land of the free, home of the brave anymore. I want it to be the land of the free, home of the slave. And I want the enslavement to become more oppressive. And I want the extortion to become more expensive. The issue in Masumacy, what is it? Masumacy wasn't so much whether or not Masumacy had the right to film from the plaza in question, but whether or not the government could ban individuals from filming federal buildings. And he was doing it, by the way, from a public sidewalk. So they're saying it's not so much that he's got the right to film, but whether the government can ban him from filming. Guys, if somebody can ban you from filming, then they obviously don't believe that you have the right to film. And the end result is the exact same in both situations. It's like half a dozen in one, 6 in the other. They're saying the same thing. You don't have the right to film is the same as we're banning you from filming. It's not that you didn't have the right to film. You had the right, but the government could limit the right. Well, if a government can limit a right, then you don't have a right. Hey, meathead, you dead from the neck up, meathead, huh? Simon Glick filmed the police officers in the Boston Common, the oldest city park in the United States. And it says, Glick was arrested by the local police for wiretapping. Man, they'll just come up with anything. The court determined that government officials, including the police, could not ban individuals from filming government officials in traditionally public places. And then here's his conclusion on the traditionally public spaces aspect of this. If there's one thing to remember, it's that the terms public and traditionally public are interchangeable terms. That's not true, because he already said what's otherwise considered traditionally public is open to the interpretation of the government to one day make it limited government. Oh, I know that looked like a sidewalk. I know it looks like a traditionally public place. I know it looks like you have freedom of press to operate in that little zone right there, but we reserve for ourselves the arbitrary right to limit that rights right now. So now it's effectively a First Amendment free zone. And nothing could be more dangerous than a rights-free zone, namely the Second Amendment. When you have a constitution-free, gun-free zone, you have a criminals are empowered because they don't follow laws. They don't care what the authorities say. They're a man unto themselves. It's a criminal empowerment, victim creation, because the law abiders, and it's no virtue to be a law abider. If you're actually going to disarm yourself to enter a constitution-free zone, you got to know that you're in a very dangerous situation. And then I call it a fish in a barrel zone. So it's a criminal empowerment, victim creation, fish in a barrel, rights-free zone. And if you put yourself in that position, you're on your own. If you don't empower yourself and make sure that you follow the natural right precept of the Second Amendment to keep and bear arms for you, for yourself, for your family, I can't think of a better way to empower yourself than to grab a firearm, learn how to use it, and carry it with you wherever you go. When courts refer to public, they're referring to traditionally public. The terms public and limited public are not interchangeable, he says. Which, by the way, you don't see public and limited public anywhere in the First Amendment, do you? Or maybe I'm the one who flew over the cuckoo's nest. And I hate to beat a dead horse about this, but every page you turn, there's more and more layers of psychopathy, and I can't even stand it. I can't even stand not to talk about this. When the courts refer to public, they are not referring to limited public. By default, the term public means traditionally public: streets, sidewalks, plazas, and parks. But if you're on a particular kind of sidewalk, we can limit that to limited public forum. Every single case that has ever established or furthered the First Amendment right to film government officials involved an individual filming from a traditionally public place, not from a limited public place. You made that up. You freaking made that up. It's just I didn't make that up. The courts made that up. Yeah, exactly. Human beings made it up. You could also make the argument, well, somebody made up the First Amendment. Yep, that's true. people did make up the First Amendment, but isn't in accordance with the golden rule. Can we ask ourselves a couple of introspective questions? Can we ask ourselves, okay, let's see. Do I have the right to speak unhindered, as long as I'm not violating somebody's rights in doing it, as long as I'm not putting somebody else in danger doing it, as long as I'm not using my speech to harm or threaten to harm or infringe on anybody else's rights? Yeah, you absolutely do. How about the freedom of the press? How about freedom of religion? How about to peaceably assemble? Yeah, you have those rights. They're unalienable rights. Nobody gave them to you. And this, you don't have them because the First Amendment articulated and codified it. It exists, and they recognized it, and they wrote down the rights that you already have because it's unalienable. It's just true. Do you have the right to limit somebody else's speech? No, you don't. Do you have the right to limit somebody filming somebody else in a public space? Do you have the right to feel violated if you're out in public? Well, yeah, you have the right to feel that way, but it doesn't make it so. Can you expect privacy when you go out into public? That's nonsense. It's like expecting to stay dry when you jump in the pool. If you expect to go outside of your house into public and remain private and remain secure, and unless you obscure your face or something like that, or hide your gait, as you're walking down the road, you are being recorded by body cams, by dash cams, rear and front facing, by street surveillance equipment, by building surveillance equipment, private and public. If you expect privacy when you're out in public, you're a loon. You're a freaking loon. And if you're the government and you're limiting free speech and freedom of the press and freedom of religion and right to assemble and all the other things that the First Amendment outlines, then you're a loon too. And you're especially a loon because you're asking the government to get more powerful against even you, Mark Stout. A traditional public place, parks and sidewalks, enjoys a much higher level of protection than limited public place. Sheetz versus City of Punta Gorda. It's like Sheetz is above the First Amendment. So here's the limited public. Here's what he says. I'll try to go over this real quick. The government, like any private landowner, no, the government's not like a private landowner, may preserve the property under its control, and that's what government's all about. Gouverno mentis, to control the mind or mind control, to preserve its property under its control for the use to which it is lawfully dedicated. Likewise, a government workplace, like any place of employment, a government workplace is not like other places of private employment. There's so many holes in this whole thing. We could literally spend a week on this one paper. There's so much to talk about. And it's amazing. People will write this and like, oh, this can't be challenged. This can't be challenged. Nobody will say anything else. This is ironclad. Oh, this is foolproof. This is sealed. No, nobody can. There's no way there's any kind of argument against it. It's so illogical in its suppositions, and it's so easy to poke holes into it. It's amazing anybody's even taking this seriously. Exists to accomplish the business of the employer. Well, guess who your employer is? Government. Guess who it is? It's the people you're shaking down 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're going to limit. They are going to become more powerful and limit your right to freedom of the press? I don't think so. Where the government acts in a proprietary capacity, facilitate the conduct of its internal business, there's a limited public space. And then it says right here, this is the same paper. When the government establishes a limited public place, the government is not required and does not allow. Thank you, Daddy Government. Oh, thank you, Daddy, for giving me permission to do things that I have a right to do anyway. Does not allow persons to engage in every type of speech and conduct. The government may be justified in reserving its limited public space for certain groups. As a general matter, the government is permitted to exercise. Who does the permitting? Oh, themselves. We'll investigate ourselves and we'll get back to you and we'll let you know if we did anything wrong. We'll investigate ourselves and we'll find out if we violated your rights. Oh, guess what? We just investigated ourselves. Nope, we didn't violate your rights. Because we are the law. We write the law. We enforce the law. And if you want to go and fight against the law, well, we own the courts too. It's the corporate structure. You understand? Can you get a little corporate structure with that? Of course you can. As a general matter, the government is permitted to exercise control over the public's use of government-owned property. In other words, the government can control you. The government can tell you where you can go and where you can film. And the degree of control permitted depends upon the nature of the property and the restrictions. And then he says, in hypocritical fashion, in inconsistent fashion, the government has the right to exercise control over the access to the workplace in order to avoid interruptions to the performance of the duties of its employees. How does that make any sense? Here, when somebody's standing there like this. Oh, let's see. Let's do this right here. Just being super quiet. Just kind of going along, just surveilling with one extra camera, like the 25 cameras that are already in this post office or in this library or in this government building or in this state house. How am I interrupting your performance because I'm exercising a right? How can you convert the exercise of a right into an interruption that's equated to criminality because they will lay hands on you for just doing this with your mouth shut? Makes zero sense. You can't interrupt somebody if you're not interrupting. The almost unfettered access of a traditionally public place would be incompatible with the dictates of a limited public place. Limited public places do not form part of the automotive, bicycle, or pedestrian transportation grid. What the frick? Vehicles and pedestrians do not generally use limited public places as a thoroughway to another destination. Rather, limited public places function simply to permit ingress and egress. The government may exclude any person for any reason from a limited public space. Why did you do that, officer? Because I felt like it. There's my reason. Why did you do that, officer? Because I felt like you were disobeying our policy. That's my reason. He literally said that. They can do it for any reason. Thus, in a limited public place, government is free. Government is free, but you're not. To impose a blanket exclusion on certain types of speech in Congress. Let's see. I'm not seeing, let's see. Blanket exclusion. I don't see that in the first. Let's see. It says abridging the freedom of speech. You can't abridge the freedom of speech. I don't see a blanket exclusion there. Huh. Maybe Mark, if you're watching, or some of your frauditor channels, maybe you can show me where that's written in the First Amendment. I don't see it. I thought that was the supreme law of the land. And check this out. Discrimination may be permissible if it preserves the purpose of that limited. If I feel like you have, if I feel like I have to preserve the purpose of a limited public place, then I reserve for myself the right to discriminate against you and deprive you of your rights. Even though I didn't legitimately give them to you, nor can I legitimately take them away. Sheets, that's Andrew Sheets versus City of Punta Gorda, is the case about video recording inside a government building. Get this. The city has a municipal ordinance prohibiting video and sound recording without the consent of those being recorded. You don't have an expectation of privacy in public government employees who get a paycheck by stealing from me. Think about it. Think about how pompous this is. This Sheets versus City of Punta Gorda is a case about video recording inside a government building, a public building. The city has a municipal ordinance prohibiting video and sound recording without the consent of those being recorded. So they're saying consent in a public place trumps the First Amendment. They're saying arbitrary edicts trump the First Amendment. I don't buy that. Not a buyer. Not on board with that. Once inside, I'll just read the rest of this because it is kind of an interesting story. Punta Gorda, this prohibition applies to City Hall and the City Hall Annex. To test the ordinance, Sheets went to the City Hall wearing a body camera. Which, let me see, let me just refer to it. Let's see. Is there any prohibition on freedom of press? Nope, that's my guiding light. First Amendment approved. I'm approved by the First Amendment. Okay, we can now go in there. So Sheets can go in there, and he did with his body camera. Once inside, Sheets walked in the fullness and glory of the First Amendment freedom of press into the city clerk's office and asked for a copy of the ordinance. The city employee behind the counter asked if she was being recorded and told Sheets that she did not consent to him walking in the fullness of the First Amendment, which is what it really should say. I don't consent to you exercising your right here in a public place, this public city employee said. Another city employee walked over and refused her consent too. I don't consent, she or he said, to you walking in the fullness of your First Amendment right. In the end, the city employees gave Sheets a copy of the ordinance, so he left City Hall and went to the city police station, where Sheets asked to speak with the police chief before an officer issued him a trespass warning in violation of his oath to protect and defend the First Amendment to keep from abridging freedom of the press, but he did it anyway. When you issue a trespass warning when you convert a right into something that gets a warning and potentially a misdemeanor or a criminal fine, you've just broken your oath, you nut job. The officer directs Sheets not to return to City Hall or the annex for a year. So you're banned. You can't, because you thought you'd come in here all high and mighty with your little body cam on your chest, and you thought you could exercise your First Amendment right that I swore to protect and defend and uphold. We're banning you from the annex for a year. If that ain't Looney Tunes, buddy, I don't know what is. I really don't. Sheets filed a 2-count complaint alleging First and Fourth Amendment violations, which they clearly are. These claims are facial and as-applied challenges. Sheets then filed a motion for a preliminary injunction asking the court to order the city to cease. Guys, it gets better. To cease enforcing City Hall's policy against filming until the outcome of Sheets' case has been determined by the court. The court denied Sheets' motion. Why? Because they don't like the First Amendment. They denied Sheets' motion because they hate your individual rights. They denied Sheets' motion because they want your children and your grandchildren to be subjected to the bondage of tyranny. Ruling that individuals don't have a First Amendment right to film in City Hall. Dude, if you don't have a First Amendment right to film in City Hall, you don't have rights, man. We're talking about basic here. We're talking about kindergarten level knowledge. Wait a minute, Mommy. I just learned to read, and let me see, it says Congress shall make no law respecting establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peacefully assemble. If Congress can't make that law, Mommy, how can City Hall make that law? Are they saying they're again above Congress? Are they saying that City Hall is above the Constitution and supreme law of the land? Does supreme have any meaning, Mommy? If you're going to call something supreme and then you treat it like it's a second or third class citizen, then stop calling it supreme. And then they say, Sheets did not demonstrate the ordinance as unreasonable. I'd say it's pretty unreasonable for people to take an oath to secure your rights and then take those rights away and just pull the rug out from under you. I'd say that's pretty darn unreasonable, if not immoral. People recording without consent are not using City Hall under ordinary conditions or for its intended purpose. The ordinance places reasonable restrictions on recording at City Hall. This is the gun control debate. It's like, this is reasonable. This is gun safety regulations. You're for gun safety, aren't you? Yeah, I'm for gun safety. Well, then we have to pass this resolution. We have to turn this bill into a law. It has to become the law of the land that we can infringe on Second Amendment rights to keep the children safe. This is gun safety regulations, or you don't care about the children. We have to take away your First Amendment rights to recognize limited public places. If you don't allow us to take away First Amendment right for limited public places, then you must not think very much about our court system. You must not think very much about case law. Well, you're right. I don't think very much about the court system or case law because it's all a corporate entity designed to take away more of our rights and enrich themselves while we become poorer. That's what it is. The ordinance places reasonable restrictions on recording at City Hall given its purpose and context. The purpose of City Hall is to conduct limited public business. If someone violates the ordinance and refuses to stop recording, the city considers that person a disruption of city business. Disruption. Note the disruption. There will be 15 seconds of silence. Disruption. Anybody feel disrupted? How can that? I would love to stand in court in front of a judge and pull out my camera and just do this. Have I disrupted anybody, Judge? No, I have not disrupted. And if you say that I did, then you're a liar. You're a freaking liar. Prior consent recording creation. Okay, listen to this. This is so crazy. Prior unconsented recording created disruptions for employees conducting city business. And the argument will be made, well, if I'm disrupting doing this, then isn't the city disrupting by having all the surveillance equipment around? Because Andrew Sheets will make that argument. Wait till you see what the response is. Prior unconsented recording created disruptions for employees conducting city business. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Videos of several employees circulated on the internet leading to threats, suspicious packages in the mail. I don't believe this, but if it did, I don't endorse that kind of activity. And so many threatening calls that the city had to shut down its phone lines. And because of this, because of reasons, we reserve the right to violate your right. That's just how it works. That's government. In the words of Gene Simmons, if the government tells you something, shut up and obey, boy, because you don't have the rights you think you do. Right, Gene Simmons from KISS? You don't have the rights you think. You have more rights than you think you do. The problem is you're not exercising your rights. And then you get jealous or offended when somebody comes out there and, because you're so immersed and indoctrinated in the way statism is. And because statists want you to put on statist glasses and look at things through the eyes of totalitarianism, and anything that doesn't match the color of those lenses is rejected, when you see individual rights being exercised, it makes you uncomfortable. And I understand that. If you're immersed in statism and you're used to being pacified from the cradle to the grave by Big Daddy government, and they're always taking care of you and they're your big brother, I can understand the shock of seeing an additional man with a camera in your public lobby that's not a limited public space. The court cannot say a restriction on unconsented recording is unreasonable considering City Hall's purpose in these circumstances. And then it says, as the Supreme Court noted, restrictions on limited public place. Let's see, let me change my pen here. As the Supreme Court noted, restrictions on limited public places need not be the most reasonable or only reasonable limitation to survive a legal challenge. I agree with that. It doesn't have to be the most reasonable or only reasonable limitation, says the government. In other words, we're not looking for reasonability, rationality, or logic. We're just looking to take away your rights. We don't have to have a reason. Isn't that government for you? Doesn't have to be reasonable. Doesn't even have to be on the table as a reasonable limitation. We can just take away your rights at will. Put simply, no person. This is something that Mark Stout amends. Put simply, no person has an absolute right to visit City Hall. Has no right to visit City Hall. It's not about visiting. You absolutely have a right to visit City Hall and record accordingly, according to the First Amendment. Sheets also asserts the ordinance is unreasonable because City Hall has surveillance cameras. That's a good argument. I saw in the lobby alone, I counted 14 cameras. What's one more camera? So if you're going to say that I disrupted you by having a camera, then you got to say the state's disrupting you by having their cameras. I mean, it makes sense, right? No, it makes sense to you because you have sense. But if you don't have sense, it doesn't make sense. Sheets asserted that the ordinance is unreasonable because City Hall has surveillance cameras, so the city is disrupting business with unconsented recording. Yet, there's an exception because there are men on this planet that have more rights than you. The ordinance exempts law enforcement activities. Who are law enforcement? Oh, that's right. They're just men like us. And using security cameras in a government building is almost undoubtedly a law enforcement activity. There you go. See? We can tell you're a disruptor, but when we are doing the same things, we're not disruptors. Disruptor? Member of the public? Not disruptor. Servants of the public. See how that works? Oh, it's so arbitrary and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be this arbitrary. It's a beautiful thing to be this immoral. In any event, without more, the city using surveillance cameras or security cameras would not open the limited public space to unconsented recording by visitors. So if visitors can't do it, the city can. And then they get into Long Island audit. Sean Paul Reyes, the defendant, was arrested by Waterbury police for videotaping the interior of the Waterbury post office. You guys remember that video? Hey, Sean, is Sean still in the room? Isn't that where, didn't they hotbox you on that one? Wasn't it a hot summer day and they left you in the back of the car without air conditioning? Let's see if Long Island audit. Is the Waterbury police interaction where they, they took away this guy's freedom, Sean's freedom, because he walked into a post office with a camera. Where's the justice in that? Where's the justice? Like the old Wendy's commercial. Where's the justice? I don't find justice in that. So I want to know if that's the one, or am I thinking of something else? He's been abused so many times, I lost count. Why is... Oh, wait. Let's see. Is he in here? I guess he's not in here. See, Frauditor Troll, do you really want Sean hotbox? Frauditor Troll says he would have enjoyed a real hotbox. I don't know what a real hotbox is. Hotboxing is, like typically when, people are smoking, and everybody's getting high, But by hotboxing, I mean he was sat in the back of a police car on a hot day, which that would suck. It gets hot real quick, even if you're in the shade in the summertime. So I don't know. I don't remember if that was, I know he was hotboxed, but I don't know if that was the case. Regardless, he was filming. He's just filming. His rights got taken away. The defendant was charged with criminal trespass in the first degree. The defendant claims that the federal courts have exclusive jurisdiction over post offices. State of Connecticut versus Sean Paul Reyes. For all lands, including post offices, this is just crazy made up stuff right here. For all lands, including post offices acquired by the United States after February 1st, 1940. What if it was February 2nd, 1939? Or what if it was January 31st, 1939? This case right here, the Supreme Court, Connecticut and the United States says, until a federal office, including a post office, files a notice of acceptance of excessive jurisdiction with the governor of the state, it shall be conclusively presumed that no such exclusive jurisdiction is accepted. If I remember right, it had to do with saying that the local cops don't have jurisdiction in a federal post office. Only federal cops do. To which I would say, federal, local, state, it doesn't matter. Nobody's got the right to lay their hands on you if you're engaged in a constitutionally protected activity, even if they have jurisdiction in the federal post office. It's just a nonsense argument. Connecticut versus Reyes clearly establishes that local and state police may trespass and arrest for trespassing individuals who refuse to comply with postal employee commands to leave postal property acquired after 1940. But what if you haven't committed a crime? So they could just tell you to leave, and if you don't leave, they can tell you to leave because you're fat, because they don't like the color of your shirt, because they don't like the fact that you have facial hair, or you're wearing the wrong lipstick, or your nails aren't done properly, or you don't have the clothing that they expect you to have. So they can just do it for any reason. They don't have to have a real reason to trespass. Hey, we want him removed. Why? Just because I don't like the color of his skin. Hey, we want him trespassed. Why? Because he has a camera in his hand and we told him to quit. Thought he could exercise his constitutionally protected activity here. No, it's not right. It's not right. So that doesn't matter to me. Let's see. Let's get down to some of this other stuff. Okay, so here's Stout's case right here. Here's the Stout case. Two brothers filmed from Manassas City, Virginia police station sidewalk. So they were filming from the sidewalk that was accessible from the police station's public parking area. You know what? I think in this video right here, this is Mark Stout from Fraudsters Exposed showing his video where he got arrested from this case right here. Let's just take a look at some of this.
Now remember, this is the most important part, and you have to keep this in mind throughout the video. You have to remain conscious of this fact throughout the video. Everything that the police did in this video, the court upheld as lawful. Remember that. Each and every word and each and every act was upheld by a federal court as lawful.
So basically what he's saying is Mark Stout, and his brother got their constitutional rights violated, but because Mark Stout doesn't think very much of the First Amendment right to, the Congress cannot abridge freedom of the press, he opts for the court's ruling against himself. That's crazy, guys.
Okay, everything the police said and everything they did. Keep that in mind. So what you see in this video and what you hear, what you see the police do and hear the police say in this video has already been upheld as lawful conduct. Okay, remember that now.
It's upheld as lawful conduct on the police department's side. He's saying what the police did was lawful conduct, but was it constitutional conduct? Because you could have lawful conduct that's not First Amendment conduct. And which conduct should take precedence? I think we know the answer to that.
Hi, how are you doing, sir?
What's up? Just so you know, we're not being detained. This is consensual.
Well, I didn't tell you you were detained or
All
not.
right.
I didn't tell you it was consensual either. So how are y'all doing today? I'm filming too.
Oh,
So
I know.
I'm Sergeant Nishu.
Now, folks, forgive my, this is the only time you'll see it in the beginning of the video. Forgive my, my attacks on the police, and everything like that. Remember, I made this video back when I was a frauditor. Okay. so forget all of the I forgot what these,
Forgive the fact that I didn't bow down and lick their boots and comply with everything that came out of their mouths like a weak American coward. Please forgive that. You'll never see that again. I will always comply. I will always lick the boot from here on out, is basically what he's saying. Manassas City Police cited a FOIA exemption when I requested Mishaw's personnel files related to his demotion.
I know.
Okay. How can I help y'all today?
We didn't ask for help, sir.
Okay. Do you some?
Okay, Rogue Nation says his case was dismissed for 12B6. I'm not sure what that is. They never decided the merits.
Do something I can help you with?
Are you Captain America?
Sir, I'm speaking with you. Can we? Sir, I'm speaking with you. Can we speak together?
No, I have 2 ears. One's
Okay.
facing your direction.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Can I speak
I'm a
with you, sir?
multitasker.
Don't circle around me.
Don't tell me what to do.
Do not circle around.
Don't tell me what to do.
You
I'm
are-
not being detained.
You all are being escorted off
hands
my
off
property.
now.
You all are being escorted
we're
off
in
the
public.
property.
We are in
You all are
public.
being escorted off the property.
Know where they are. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. It looks like they're outside of a gate or there's a parking lot with a bunch of law enforcement vehicles right here. And now the cop is going hands-on. If you went hands-on in that cop, you know exactly how it would go down. So far, I haven't seen any unruly behavior out of Mark Stout and his brother. It looks like they're standing for their rights or trying to stand for their rights. And now they're apologizing for standing for their rights.
You're being trespassed. You're being trespassed.
This is
You do not. No,
Willie,
do not leave this
we'll leave on
property.
a threat of force.
You
We're
will be
gonna
arrested.
leave on a threat of arrest, but we are on public property, and you don't get to
You're on
determine what's
my public property.
No,
You're
determine
on
what's
my public property.
No,
You're on
determine
my
what's
public property.
No.
Take your hands off
The
me,
city
please.
has already
Take your
determined
hands
and
off me.
designated that this parking lot is dedicated to public space and public use. And where I can be, I can film. If I'm allowed to be here in public, I can film here.
So what I am doing is I'm telling you,
Okay,
you
there's a
are
public
trespassing
sidewalk,
on
there's a
this
public
property.
parking lot. You don't get to determine what's public and what's not, sir. You don't get to determine what's public and what's not. That's already been decided for you, though. That's what I'm trying to say. The city of Manassas has designated this parking lot public. It's publicly accessible. And where we can be in public, we can film. It's a First Amendment protected activity. We have the constitutional right, freedom of the press to film.
Everything he's saying is true, and he's apologizing for saying things that he once said that were true. He's apologizing for not being a bootlicker. He's repented, and now he's become a bootlicker. And when I say bootlicker, I mean it in the most derogatory fashion that I possibly could, because I don't have any kind of feelings of goodwill toward anybody who wants to take a single shred of my children's rights and my grandchildren and my rights away. None. Because I know where that leads.
In public, we're in public. You're illegally. You can't trespass us from a public location where we have constitutionally protected business to practice. It's constitutionally protected business that we are allowed to do. We are allowed to film.
You cannot come and accuse us and circle around me.
We are allowed to do all of that, sir. We are allowed to do all of that. The same way you guys can approach people in
I have
public,
never-
consensual encounter, and
I have never seen this video. I've never seen this video. This is what the cops are doing is so shameful. It's so anti-constitutional. It's such a good example of breaking your oath. It's such a good example of doing something that you said you wouldn't do. You wouldn't violate your oath.
circle people and flash your lights and do all that intimidating shit. We are allowed to do the same thing. We're not breaking any laws. We are in public.
I need your IDs.
I need your ID.
No, you're not detaining me. You don't have reasonable suspicion to detain me.
I need your ID.
You don't have reasonable suspicion to detain me. You're not getting ID. Bye.
I don't like the reasonable suspicion argument. You don't have a constitutional right to detain me. You don't have a constitutional right to make me insecure in my person's houses, papers, and effects. I mean, those are inalienable. This reasonable articulable suspicion, you can say it all day, but the hard stop is the right to be secure in your person. That's the hard stop. Have I committed a crime? Did you witness me committing a crime? Now you got some room to talk there. But if you don't have anything like that, don't start making stuff up.
This is consensual. We're free to go. Bye. You're breaking the law. You're violating our constitutional rights by telling us to leave right now. I'm telling you that right now. You guys are not in the right in this situation. What we are doing is
That is so true. That is the point. You're not in the right. You cops are doing wrong. It's never right to do wrong. It's never wrong to do right. That is the issue. They are doing wrong to another fellow human being. What harm was being done when two guys with cameras were at their gates? What harm was being done?
clearly established, constitutionally protected activity. Clearly established. You guys don't even have qualified. You guys don't have qualified immunity anymore in this situation. I'm telling you. And guess what? You're not getting ID. You're not detaining me. This is consensual. You're powerless now.
I'm actually
You are powerless. There is nothing that you are going to do or that you can do.
You think you guys are the
folks? And no, I do not miss this at all. And I'm actually, I feel awkward just watching it, right? Folks, do you hear the fraud?
I feel awkward standing for my rights and your rights. I feel awkward being in the presence of other people, filming them as they're doing wrong, as they pretend to be public servants. I feel awkward.
Script? Do you hear the script? Do you hear the frauditor script on steroids? Do you hear that? Okay, someone characterized it as frauditor script. All right, that's the script. If you're gonna spit the script, that's how you spit the script right there.
He's literally, I mean, this is what makes me sick. He's literally laughing at himself, his former self, standing against tyranny. He's laughing and he's embarrassed that he stood against tyranny. I don't get it, Frauditor Troll. I don't get it, Mark Stout. I don't understand laughing at your former self when you did what was right and the government agents were doing what was wrong. And you recorded it and you exposed it. I don't get it.
And folks, remember, we've been through this before. Qualified immunity isn't something a frauder can just take away because it's not something the police just have. Okay, the police have to argue that defense applies to them before the plaintiff can argue that it doesn't. Police officers don't have qualified immunity for anyone to take it away. They don't have it in the first place. It's something they have to argue. It's a defense they have to argue for. Okay. So when frauditors say, including myself, when they say, "Oh, you don't have any," I'm going to take your qualified immunity away. You don't have qualified. That's not how it works. They don't have qualified immunity for me to just take it away. They have to get it first, and then I have to argue that it doesn't apply. And that happens in court. None of that happens in the street, people.
Harvey Freebird says, Mark sold out, plain and simple. Legit. We'll go over some more of this, but I just want to hit some super chats real quick. Let's see, where did I leave off? Scaleza Photo also dropped another super chat and said, every citizen is a potential elected official. If the owners of the city hall, the people, can't film in city hall, any illusion of citizen involved democracy is gone. Cameras equal eyes of citizens, the people. That's a good point. When you turn your camera on in a public place in Arizona or Massachusetts or Long Island or Florida or Washington State, you're turning the eyes of the people on to public servants who they would never otherwise have seen if not through the lens of your camera. That's another good point. That's why none of us is greater than all of us. That was a good addition. For officer safety, thanks for the $20 super chat. It said, Brian Easley, South Carolina just passed an unconstitutional ordinance saying you cannot file in any city-owned building and any city employee without consent. Oh, film? The M's not there. You cannot film in any city-owned building and any city employee without consent, all because I went into City Hall and filmed. That's an interesting point too. In my state, in the state of Oklahoma, the governor basically made an executive order saying that you can't film police out on the public sidewalk in the normal, routine, job description as they're pulling people over, as they're interacting with the public. It's supposedly illegal by governor's edict to film Oklahoma police. Lamar Walker, thanks for the super chat, says, thanks for your hard work. See something, film something, dropped a super chat, no message. Calezo Photo says, according to Mark, the First Amendment free press is only, quote, allowed in locations where government can ignore you. The First Amendment free... Oh, that's a good point, too. If this building has the capacity to ignore you, you have your First Amendment right to free press. If they lack the capacity to be able to ignore you, then you don't have freedom of press because they're going to get offended and they're not going to give you their consent, which you don't need, according to the First Amendment. The First Amendment free press is too scary for politicians in City Hall. If they don't want you recorded, then what are they planning on doing? What are they up to? If they don't want that transparency. Now, in a public place, you can have filing cabinets where you can lock stuff up. You can turn computer monitors away so anybody filming can't see what information is on there. You can put things in the back room that aren't publicly accessible. But if it's a publicly accessible area and your eyes can see it, what if you could memorize everything on that computer screen? Are they gonna block your ability? Hey, by the way, I want to let you know I literally have a photographic memory. I'll remember all this and I can detail all the information I see on your computer screen. Are they going to arrest you and kick you out if you have a photographic memory? Oh, Chuck Bronson became a member. Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate that, man. Chainsaw Cat says, keep being a voice for freedom and the truth, brother. Much love. Thanks for that super chat, Chainsaw. Pink Tights became a member. Thanks, Pink Tights. Fellow Tahlequinian there. Pigs in Space dropped $10. No message. Thanks, Pigs in Space. Lagila Featherman, hugs from Sweden. Thank you very much. And Les Hicks dropped $5 and says, just because the Just Us criminals system backed the Blue Lion gang does not mean the victim was wrong. Good point. There's a lot of people in jail. Yeah, the first person I think of, and I said this on quite a few live streams, is Kevin Strickland. I mean, the guy was in jail for 43 years for a triple homicide that everybody, including the prosecution, knew he didn't commit. So don't tell me there are not people behind bars who should be free. So we'll continue with this.
Only a judge determines whether the doctrine of qualified immunity applies to a specific case or not. Only a judge can do that.
There shouldn't even be the idea of qualified immunity. If you commit a crime against somebody, you don't have qualified immunity. Like, it's not even a conversation that private citizens have qualified immunity. Why would it be a conversation when a private citizen puts on a uniform badge and a gun?
The plaintiff doesn't determine that. The frauditor doesn't decide. The frauditor can make the argument, but the judge determines whether qualified immunity applies or not.
All right, come on.
But you hear the script: public, right? Public, right? And so now here's the thing, though.
Wait. Hezekiah the Frauditor Destroyer. Oh, I'm blocked now. Nice. Nope. None of my mods are going to block you. I'm not blocking you. I don't think you have a block on you. Let me see. Please don't block anybody, guys. I am not for censorship. Let people say what they're going to say. Unless they're disrupting to the point where people in the chat room can't get a word in edgewise, then you're infringing on somebody else's rights. But let people say what they want to say. I don't see a block on you, man. Hide user on this channel. I don't see any block. So Hezekiah Frauditor, I don't think you're blocked. Nobody blocked him. Please don't block. And hey, thanks, AJOT. Thanks for becoming a member. No, I'm not going to block anybody. This is free. This is a free speech zone, man. Free speech. Let it fly. I want to hear the opposing side, because I want freedom for you, Hezekiah, and Frauditor Troll, and all you guys. I want you guys to be free, just like I want to be free.
Now, remember. Well, I'll get to this argument later. I might even have to make a post about it, but I just wanted to make those points.
Oh, you've done it. I can tell you guys have done it. You guys have a lot of practice of doing stuff like this.
Street, sir.
We don't take instruction or direction, especially from you. We don't need.
I'm not sure. I'm not voiced on all the FOIA rules. Hey, we're both filming. We both.
Oh, I know.
We both have spoken with each other. I'm not.
Yes, the ruling applies in all states. Veda Mendoza. Stout v. Mishu applies everywhere. Every federal case applies everywhere, unless there's already a case.
So Stout v. Mishu applies everywhere over and above the First Amendment? What kind of communism is this?
On point in that jurisdiction, all right? Otherwise, yes, these cases are persuasive everywhere. Yes.
Wow.
Stout v. Mishu and Sheets v. City of Punta Gorda.
Sure, I'm not voiced on
Those are the two cases we just went over and marked up. That it's filled with so many hypocrisies and inconsistencies, it makes you sick.
FOIA rules. So I appreciate what you guys.
And guess what? Just like you guys are allowed to come out here and film in public,
nothing wrong.
and you guys can walk on my property consensually and knock on my door to ask questions, you can do it wearing a body camera. You're allowed to come on my property, come to my house, and walk on my doorstep with a body camera and film yourself in a consensual encounter.
But we cannot talk.
That's exactly what I'm doing here. You want to do something that you don't like that is done back to you.
Discuss this.
That's what you don't like. This is your public property, correct? For clarity.
Yeah, I think Ian Copedog says this guy is broken. The cops broke him down. Stockholm Syndrome. It does look like that. This does look like a measure of Stockholm Syndrome, where you have some kind of affinity toward your captors, toward your oppressors, and now you're basically giving them free reign, and you feel like they are in some ways good. Amazing.
Correct. Do you have the power to determine whether this is public or not? Do Do you have the power to determine whether this parking lot is accessible to the public or not? Do you have that authority?
It is accessible to the public. It is accessible to the public.
It is accessible to the public.
I have trespassed you from this property.
For what? For practicing my First Amendment right. Do I or do I not have a right to film in public? Is that or is that not a constitutionally protected right to film public officials in public?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Remember, you see the cop thinking, you see Sergeant Minshew thinking, he's right. I do have a right to film in public, but I wasn't in public, was I? I was in limited or non-public.
Do you see what he just did? He really believes what he wrote here. He really believes this write-up. He really believes that he doesn't have a constitutional right when the government authorities tell him he doesn't have a right. But that's, wow. JC says, looks like an agenda is afoot. Sure does.
You see? See, and I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I know that what I'm saying is not accurate. Okay, I'm throwing the script out there. I'm pushing the script. I'm just pushing the script, and he knows how to defeat it. He's defeating the script, and all I can do is just try to overwhelm him. That's really it. That's really all the frauditor's leverage is to try to just stay there and overwhelm. And, you know.
So the script that he's talking about that he verbalized back when he was basically on the side of the First Amendment, or appeared to be, the script that he's talking about is the First Amendment script. And he's saying that this badged law enforcer who excels at deriving a paycheck from condemning the script is the one who's in the right. The one who's trying to take away rights away. Mark Stout is now saying is in the right. Ragamonkey says, so where can we record legally? Stout was forced to love Big Brother. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, where can we record? Oh, the answer is, according to his write-up against Long Island Audits right here, you can record wherever Big Daddy government says you can record. Now, today you may be able to record on this sidewalk, but discretion says another officer can come and say, hey, I automatically arbitrarily declare this a limited public forum. And now you can't. You could yesterday, you can't today. There's no solidity there. There's no foundation. It's all just, the shifting sands of arbitrary edicts of government enforcers.
So when he thought about it and he said, do they have a right to film in public? He's like, yeah, in traditional public, which is what public is. The two terms are interchangeable. So he didn't say I have a right to film in limited public or non-public, which is what police station property is. So he defeated the script right there, even by
Freaking media, were you here when I first played your video right here? This is a classic ID refusal. Anyway, freaking media says in the chat room, this guy is a moron like all other frauditor cheerleaders with their shredded Constitution and Bill of Rights as pom-poms and skimpy sissy skirts.
Admitting that individuals have a right to film in public, even by conceding to the script, he still defeated it. Do you see? When you understand the public forum doctrine, you can concede to the script and in the same breath defeat it.
The public forum doctrine, he's actually speaking as a cult member. And that's what the greatest superstition is of statism. You bow down at the altar of the state and you do the state's bidding. And if the state says you don't have rights today on this limited public forum, then you just comply. You roll over and you tell your sons and daughters to comply and roll over. This is horrible. Horrible.
And we're going after this video. I'm going to get into how with the argument I made in court, how I tried to get around the limited and non-public forum doctrine, how I tried to escape characterizing the police station as not a traditional public forum. Okay, so we're going to get to that after the video. And folks, listen, I'm not even.
Yeah, Wolfie said it. Wolfie Gladly, the cop baiter, said, public forum doctrine is God to him. It is his religious manuscript. It is his holy Bible. It's the Holy Grail, limited public forum. Oh, who spoke that into existence? My daddy, the government, and I serve my daddy. I do the will of my father. This is I hope you guys see this as in your face as I do.
I'm proud of this, of how I behaved, you know, and I apologize for putting everybody through this frauditor, you know, the generic frauditor script and the yelling and the screaming and the pointless, you know.
I'm so sorry that I stood up for your rights. I'm so sorry that I supported the Constitution. I'm so sorry, all you sons and daughters, you future generations who will see this video, please forgive me for not bowing down at the boot and licking my master sooner. I'm so sorry. That's what he's saying. This is so freaking embarrassing to see a fellow human being do this. It makes you want to regurgitate.
The blind rambling.
You're being trespassed. You're being trespassed.
Do I not have a right to film in public? Is that or is that not a constitutionally protected right to film public officials in public?
Yes. Is there anything else I can help you all with at this point?
We didn't ask you for help.
Gentlemen, we have to go. We have citizens. Is there any questions I can answer?
What's the reasonable suspicion or probable cause?
What illegal activity? What statute do you violate?
I don't have to have any activity to tell you that you're not allowed on the property.
Oh, so don't have to have it.
I can trespass you from City of Manassas property
because you want just because you
whatsoever. Okay. Okay. I appreciate your all's time.
Did you hear what he said? Folks, listen. A court has already upheld that what Sergeant Mishu said was lawful and that what he did was lawful. Listen to what he says.
Oh, so
what illegal activity? What statute do you violate?
I don't have to have any activity to tell you that you're not.
Wow, Jersey Bob. Thanks for that. Thanks for that super chat. Love the controversy allowed. Brian, hang in there, bro. Many fish, one love, true liberty and freedom for all. Amen. Got your 6. Appreciate that.
Oh, so don't have to have it.
Trespass you from City of Manassas property
because you want just because
whatsoever.
He can trespass us from city property for no reason whatsoever. Folks, the judge saw this video. The judge watched every second of this video and upheld all of the police officers' conduct to be lawful.
Imagine that. The city judge and the law enforcers are in cahoots together, violating individual rights at will. Imagine my shock.
Think about that, folks. What does that say for your cause or for your case? When a federal judge has decided that city officials can trespass individuals from city property for no reason whatsoever.
It tells me we're in the land of tyranny. What does it tell you? Yeah, exactly. Freaking media says doesn't mean he's correct. And it's not even about being correct. It's about doing what is right by your fellow human being. Why would you trespass somebody off of public property? Why would you put your hands on them? Why would you think it's okay to intimidate them and coerce them and threaten them? Why would you think that? Because if you think it's okay, you're psycho. Les Hicks says, yes, Mark. Mark is a sorry person and needs to apologize for being that way. I don't know what the holdup is here.
What room is there left to further the cause? After this Mishu case, what room is there left to further the frauditor cause? When the court has now ruled.
What room? Wait. After this Mishu case, which is his case, what room is there left to advance freedom? God, what the... I don't get what's wrong with our world.
That frauditors may be trespassed for no reason whatsoever. What hope is there left in frauditing? I don't understand.
That would make you want to do it more. Because if they're going to continue to violate their rights, imagine how much worse it's going to be a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. It's got to be nipped in the bud now. They got to know that they can't do that now. It's even more pressing now with a cop thinking like this and with ex-auditors thinking like this.
I'm baffled.
Okay. I appreciate your all's time. Make sure you get the Christmas lights in the
We got the...
And folks, and what I'll also do is I'll go through, because I'm going to play the video and then I'll go through the case, and I'm also going to talk about the tactics, some of the frauditor tactics that we deployed. okay, and when and where and what the purpose of that was.
I don't know. I can't do anymore. I can't. It's seriously making me feel sick. I'm feeling physically sick listening to this guy, listening to him placate to the government authorities and try to convince his audience. And a lot of them are convinced or they wouldn't be following him. And I imagine this guy, he has 2.88 thousand subscribers now. I imagine that there's a lot of people out there who like his content. They like Frauditor Trolls content, and they are content as content can be to be bossed around by public authorities telling you you're a second-class citizen and they have more rights than you. And that's what limited public forum is. It's you don't have rights here because we say so. We got more rights than you because we say so. And let's see, was there another? There's a bunch of. I went through this whole thing all the way to the end. Look, he's got his signature right here. Mark J. Stout, and Stout, pro se litigation. Because we say bow down and lick the boot. Where's professional douche when you need him? Don't lick the whole boot. They deep throat the whole boot. So guys, thanks for supporting here. I think an hour and 39 minutes is enough. I don't want to bore you anymore, and I definitely can't listen to any more of this guy's stuff. If you think there was something that I said that's not in alignment with, being against any abridgment of freedom of speech or of the press, then I want to know about it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel and get something cool, visit the store. You can get a print, a conversation starting print on any shirt, hoodie, mug, cell phone case, stickers, whatever you want. I will see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow. Wait. Before we go, let me make sure I got all the super chats. Les Hicks. I already got Les Hicks. Where can we record? Yeah, I got Ragamonkey. I think we're caught up on that. Yeah, I think we are. Yeah, if I miss something, of course it's easy to miss stuff on live stream, but here's what I want. I just want to be free. I want my family to be free. I want you to be free. And anybody who says that they don't want me to be free is my enemy. Anybody who says they want to institute gun bans and gun safety regulations and limitations on freedom of speech, limitations on freedom of the press, who I can or can't worship or whatever, is not your friend. They're your enemy. I mean, they fought the Revolutionary War over the things that we have right now. Am I saying the Constitution is perfect? Am I saying I'm a constitutionalist? No. And I should say it in every video, what Spooner said. Whether the Constitution would be one or the other, this much is certain. It's either authorized such a tyrannical government as we have that Mark Stout is applauding, or it's been powerless to stop it. In either case, it's unfit to exist. It's not the Constitution that's going to save you. The Fourth Amendment will not keep the SWAT team from banging down your door at 5 o'clock this morning. The Second Amendment will not keep red flag laws and people who believe in red flag laws from coming to your house and stealing your guns and putting your family at risk, throwing you in jail and fining you. It's not going to keep you from doing that. You know what will, though? Sensitizing people to the fact that we have unalienable rights, and we need to spread that brush fire of freedom in the minds of men before it's too late. Because I'm telling you, this is so kindergarten, it's comical. That every American is not sensitized to their rights and how to walk in them and how to exercise them is comical and tragic, all in the same, in the same role. Because we got bigger fish to fry, man. The Great Reset, Klaus' Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution, you'll own nothing and be happy, eat the bug Schwab, and his band of merry psychopaths are bringing the CBDCs. They're bringing lack of, they're bringing scarcity, fuel scarcity, food scarcity. It's coming. This Agenda 2030 thing is real. And if we don't get individual rights down now, we ain't never going to get it. This is like situation critical. So leave your thoughts. Appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. It really helps the channel grow and it helps us overcome the algorithms. What really helps overcome the algorithms is a like, a share, and be sure you make a comment and maybe comment under other people's comments and let us know what you think. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for joining. I will see you in the next live stream. Tomorrow, we will be talking about this cop who pulled over these guys who were driving 3 Lamborghinis, and we're going to look into the face of a liar as he tramples individual rights. And there's another underlying message that a lot of people who watch this video that has 4.4 million views, by the way, seem to have missed. So we're going to be talking about that. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, and remember, the price of freedom is and will always be eternal vigilance, and indifference to this notion is the means by which the people have and will secure their own oppression. If you want to see something scary, a small Brian is scarier. A big Brian is even scarier still. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.